The number of devices running Windows 10 is growing at a slightly faster rate, perhaps a sign that the enterprise is really adopting Microsoft's new platform. For Tech Republic and ZDNet, I'm Dan Patterson with Steve Ranger. Steve, what's behind the latest jump in Windows 10 users?
Sure, Dan. So what's happened is Microsoft has hit another milestone with Windows 10. They've announced they've now got 600 million PCs, Xboxes, smartphones actually running on Windows 10. Now, obviously, that's a pretty big number. Maybe not quite as big as they had hoped a couple of years ago, maybe, but it's still pretty impressive.
So Windows 10 replaced Windows 7, which was a reasonably successful operating system, but not as successful in the enterprise as 10 seems to be. Are there indicators behind why the enterprise is adopting the operating system?
Sure. I mean, what's quite interesting about this new number is it suggests that adoption has actually accelerated slightly. So back in, I think it was September last year, Microsoft said it had hit 400 million installs, which is a pretty big number. Then in May this year, it hit, I think, 500 million. And then finally, now, November, it's hit 600 million. So going from 4 to 5 and then going from 5 to 6, going from 5 to 6 is actually slightly faster than going from 4 to 5, if you follow me. And what seems to have happened is it's a small kind of increase. What's probably happening is that enterprises are finally taking the plunge and investing in Windows 10. Now they're doing this even though Windows 10 has been out for a while now. Corporates are always slower. Businesses are always slower because they want to kind of like look at the funding and make sure they've got enough money to do it. Also, they're going to move a lot of PCs over with one go, so they have to plan for this stuff. So it tends to be they come in like a couple of years later than the consumers. Businesses have also got another deadline coming up, which is Windows 7 support. Now, a lot of corporates are on Windows 7. That's going out of support relatively soon, 2020. So right now is when they're starting to look at upgrading to Windows 10. So that's probably why we're seeing this kind of slight jump in installations going on.
So Microsoft recently released the Fall Creators Update, and they have been improving Windows 10 on a reasonably regular basis. Is there reason to believe that Windows 10 will be a stable update that enterprise companies and even SMBs can bank on going forward?
So I think that's why we're seeing this jump now. They've had a couple of years to test it, to think about it, to get used to it. And, probably people have got it at home right now. I mean, consumers tend to adopt these things quicker than businesses, simply because if you go out and buy a new PC, it's going to have Windows 10 on it. So you've got one at home and you kind of get used to it. And then you kind of wonder why your one in the office is running an older version of the operating system. So I think now is kind of in that kind of sweet spot for businesses, particularly big businesses that have to take a long time to get these migrations right. So that's probably why we're seeing this jump in numbers now.
It really reminds me of Service Pack 2 that upgraded Windows XP well over a decade ago. Steve Ranger is a senior reporter for ZDNet. Steve, what does 2018 have in store for Windows?
So I think more of the same. I think these enterprise rollouts will increase momentum. There are some figures from earlier this year saying that probably 85% of businesses would have started their Windows 10 migration by the end of this year. So you'll probably start seeing the kind of the big projects kicking off and rolling through next year, because these big organizations don't want to still be stuck on Windows 7 when it goes out of support.